Hey, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. I'm just sitting here on my couch and I'm actually going through an older sketchbook of mine. This sketchbook is from, I started it in 2021 and I think I finished it at the end of 2022, maybe early 23. So it's sort of an older sketchbook at this point, and I'm glad I actually saved this one. I'm not sure if I ever mentioned this on this channel before, but I've had many sketchbooks over the years. And several years ago, during a big move, I wound up throwing out years and years worth of sketchbooks. It's a pretty scary thing, I know, but it was something that I just felt like I kind of had to do at that point. I wasn't sure I was gonna envision myself just carrying around these sketchbooks with me for the rest of my life. Some of them dated way, way back to like my teenage years. And so I don't regret doing that at all. But after doing that, I decided that I'm probably not gonna throw out any more sketchbooks, and I'm just gonna keep the ones that I have from here on out. One of the good things about actually keeping your sketchbooks is that you can go back and kind of look through them. And I've mentioned this before, but they're kind of like these vessels of ideas, things you might have forgotten about. And sometimes you can find some real gems in an older sketchbook. But also one of the things that you can find in a sketchbook is a look and an insight into how far you've come as an artist. You can see a lot of your progression. This is already like 3 or 4 years ago now when I started this book. And so already I can actually see where I have progressed. So the more time that goes by in between picking these things up, the more you're actually able to look at it very objectively. And one of the things that I'm noticing as I look through this particular sketchbook of mine is some areas where I might have overlooked some anatomy issues in terms of just proportions. One of the things that I tend to struggle with the most as far as anatomy goes is like size proportion stuff. I'm a comic book artist and an illustrator. I'm not looking for photorealistic accuracy. My work is stylized and that's purposeful, but I want it to be purposefully stylized. I want to know exactly where I'm stylizing things, where I'm exaggerating things, and not just doing it sort of unconsciously because it's a weak area and it's something that I'm just overlooking. So when I go back through this particular sketchbook, I can see where I didn't realize it at the time, but particular size relationships in terms of figure proportions were a little bit off. And for me, one of the things that I tend to do if I'm not really super conscious about it is making the head a little bit bigger. It's just slightly too big, for my taste at least. And again, there's all like stylistic reasons that you can do a bigger head. But when I notice it here in my work, it's not something that I was purposefully trying to do for any particular reason. It's just something that I didn't realize I was doing it at the time. I'm also noticing some like facial construction issues in terms of just like the turn of the head. I actually really like drawing that 3/4 view of the face. I know some of us tend to struggle with that early on. I know I did, specifically the profile and the 3/4. When you're first drawing, you kind of get really used to just drawing the face head on like that. And then when you have to start turning it in other angles, it can become really, really challenging. But when I was young and I was like figuring out that particular 3/4 angle, I guess I just got encouraged by the fact that I felt like I was able to do it. So it was something that I didn't shy away from too often. But it's a life's work trying to figure out how to draw human anatomy, the face, the eyes, heads from all different angles. So even now, looking back on a relatively recent sketchbook, I still notice where I have improved and where I could continue to improve even more. Hands, hands, hands. To this day, I don't think I'm confident saying, oh, I'm really, really good at drawing hands. And I can see here where I was struggling in certain instances. I can also see that since this particular sketchbook, I have put more emphasis on the hands and practicing the hands. So I see here where if I were to draw some of these sketches again, I think I would already be better at that. But one of the things that I'm trying to look for as I look through this particular sketchbook is the weak areas in some of these sketches and where they might not have yet progressed. That may have to do with certain line quality things, perhaps even repetitive poses, all that kind of stuff. And I've said this before, there's a fine line between, beating yourself up as an artist and also being critical of your own work. I think if you want to improve, you have to be able to be objective about your own work. And that's a really, really hard thing to do because we're the ones making it and we're so attached to this stuff in the moment. That's why utilizing time in between is really, really important. It's one of those invisible advantages or invisible ingredients that we have to help us grow as an artist. Really utilizing that passage of time. And notice where you might have progressed and where you still need to progress, I think is really important. And one of the things that I'm going to do right now, and one of the things that I'm going to try to recommend that you perhaps try to do with your sketchbook, is make a list of some of the things that you may have improved upon since your last sketchbook or 2 or 3 sketchbooks prior. And then make a list of some of the things that you feel like you still need to work on. I'm so close to the work that I'm working on now, the sketchbook that I'm keeping currently, the work that I'm making on my drawing desk. It seems almost impossible to look at it objectively because it's so recent. So perhaps I'm still making some of these same, mishaps in terms of head proportions and hands or whatnot. But looking at this stuff now and then making a list about it is going to help me bring some of that thinking into the work that I'm working on now. For a lot of us who draw regularly and a lot of us who might have been drawing ever since we're kids, drawing can be a really fun and sometimes relaxing thing to do, and that's awesome. But it can also become this very automatic thing that we do, and it can become habitual in a lot of ways. The type of lines you make, the way you perhaps draw something. And if you're looking to improve, you don't want to be ignorant to that kind of stuff. You want to be conscious of what you're drawing, how you're drawing, as you're drawing it. It's a really tricky thing to do. I looked through this sketchbook and I actually really, really like it. I like the way I utilized this sketchbook. There's a nice balance between using it very practical for just doing thumbnails and writing down little notes and ideas to myself. And then there's a good amount of doing studies from photographs. And then there's a fair amount of me just drawing fun comic book characters just for fun. And since this one is completely finished, it has a kind of rhythm and almost certain themes that run throughout it, even though most of that wasn't planned. So it's just another reminder to kind of bring that variety and some of that approach into my current sketchbook and moving forward. It's real easy for a sketchbook to get kind of bland and stale and repetitive and boring. And I think that's sometimes why we stop sketchbooking. I'm looking here right now and I took this sketchbook to the beach one day and was just drawing people, drawing waves, drawing palm trees and things like that. And it's a good reminder for me of I should just do something like that again. I try to bring my sketchbook in public and draw real life as much as possible. It's actually one of my more favorite things to do with my sketchbook. But since I just started a new sketchbook, that's not something that I've done yet with that one. So this is a really good reminder for me to get out there and bring my new sketchbook with me. One of the other things that I'm noticing in this sketchbook is that it's, I would say, 97% black and white, if not almost exactly 100% black and white, which is really cool. But since this particular sketchbook, I've really incorporated so much more color in my sketchbooks. Really experimenting with gouache paint, trying to understand color application, and how to just make my color drawings that much better. So that's a really cool thing to notice, that I've kind of progressed in that way. So whenever you're watching this video, whether it's the start of a newer year or the end of a year, or you're about to start a new sketchbook, it might be beneficial for you to look through your last sketchbook or 2 or 3 sketchbooks prior to kind of audit and assess your own work. Like I said, it's a really kind of a shortcut in taking as much of an objective look at your own art as you can. Sometimes we have to be our own critic, our own instructor. I do recommend reaching out to other people perhaps who you consider to be a better artist, and getting their feedback as well. That's super helpful. But if you can't do that in the moment, or there's only so much of that you can do, in the meantime, you can try to act as your own sort of critic and teacher by utilizing current day you and the knowledge that you currently have to assess younger you, even if younger you is only 6 months ago. Cool, that's all I got for this video. I hope it does help. If you have any questions or comments, do leave them in the comment section. That's what it's there for. Since I shared with you a little bit of my weak areas as it pertains to some of my drawing challenges, perhaps you could let me know in the comments, what's your weak spot when it comes to drawing? Is it proportional stuff like me? Is it drawing objects and atmospheres, perspective? Whatever it might be, let me know. We could all commiserate in the comment section. I struggle at all of those things that I just mentioned, so no shame in that. We're all just trying to get better. Anyway, if you like this video, please do hit that like button. It helps the algorithm, which helps the channel. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, please do consider subscribing to my channel. More videos on the way. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.